What I'm going to be going into more and more is the meditation side of the art that comes out of the monastery, because I think that's something dramatically more valuable than the martial art tradition is in a lot of ways, and I'll tell you why. Do many of you know much about Chinese history? You ever heard of the Boxer Rebellion? Guess what? They had all these boxers who said they wore magic talisman and they did magic kung fu and bullets wouldn't hurt them. But you know something? The machine guns killed them anyway. Now I'll give you my basic perspective, having been on the heaviest side of the martial art game. Give me gun fu. Better that, give me Uzi fu. Better that, give me Stinger fu. I will take an electric Gatling gun over any 1,000 martial artists any day of the week. Period. The martial artist might be able to break a house down, but an electric Gatling gun can cut right through it in about 3 or 4 seconds. So all I'm trying to do is most of you here are not really here to be heavy-duty fighters. And it's okay. If I mention this stuff, fair enough. Look, I taught a lot of martial arts, and I taught a lot of Baghua's martial arts. And I found that most of the people who did it didn't take it all that far anyway. Some did. And I'm happy to mention, now if you have the bandwidth to get what the martial arts stuff is, and it's useful for you to just kind of get how that thing is in terms of meditation, great. But I'm saying this for all of you. The value almost everybody here is going to get out of this course is going to come in terms of chi and meditation. That's where the real value is. And all I'm trying to say is that don't let yourself get so excited by going, oh yeah, breaking a leg that way and cut their neck here and stick the fingers through. I'm obligated by tradition to mention these things. The question is, or the thing is, you're not obligated to have to get involved. Can you all hear me? So it's your call. You know, whatever it is. All I'm saying is that be wise. All right, so now we look at this here. First, we need to do the last of the warm-up exercises. Now, I just want to say this one thing about the simple warm-up exercises before we'll be beginning tomorrow into the ones that are meant to unify your body. When you warm yourself up, there are, in the beginning, a few things that need to be done. There are whole methods of warming yourself up by just starting with walking itself and then like doing various things to walk yourself up. And there are some people that like to do that. I mentioned, for example, what Jack Powell did, and I showed you the first day, like he would just like stop and like he'd bend down and like his hands would go down, this and that. But that was kind of his central issue. But what I think about warming up are several things. In any physical activity that involves using your body, it is a smart thing to warm up in general before you engage in a general activity so your blood is flowing and basically just so you don't rip anything. And you're warm when you start. But the second thing, and the biggest emphasis in Bagua, is on the fact that you need to get your nervous system flowing before you start doing circle walking. Why? Because if you don't, and you don't do something to get your nerves going, there's a tendency for you that wherever your nerves, you know the term glitch, like in a computer? Every place your nerves glitch, you're going to build it into your walking. And so, for example, what Jack Powell did when he first learned, he did not do what he did when I met him, because he had been doing Bagua already something like 25 years. His family was a kind of rich family in Beijing before he, shall we say, had to leave. As everyone did when the commies came in. But the fact of the matter is that he had learned all these other things, but he just got down after a number of years what he personally needed for his rheumatism. So that's all he ever did. Now, I would also say it's the same thing. You go through the warm-ups I'm showing you are about the minimum of what's a good idea to do. Okay? There are all sorts of other warm-up methods. Many of you here, for example, know Luo Deshu, my classmate from Hong Yixiang's. He likes to do the Shi Da Tian Gang, which is a great set, which is a body unification set. But, point of fact, almost nobody has the time to do it, and almost nobody learns to do it quite correctly. So that is very much geared toward martial arts, because the whole thing of the Shi Da Tian Gang is not something I could figure out why anybody would do if their specific interest wasn't in Bagua as a martial art. I couldn't figure out why they do it. I mean, I've done it. It isn't like I don't know it. I did that for years. But the fact of the matter is that if you're looking from the point of view of monastic Bagua or meditation Bagua or just developing your chi, the first thing is you just want to get your blood going to make sure you don't injure yourself. And your body's kind of like ready to go. But the second bigger thing is that you want to really get it to where you start getting a clean flow through your nervous system. So that when you start actually exercising, you don't begin from your body, kind of your nervous system going, it should just kind of, instead of being, whatever that means, to being relatively having some sort of a smooth flow, so that then when you walk, that smooth flow within your nervous system becomes smoother and smoother and smoother. The second point is that if you're doing Bagua for meditation, that a major purpose of the warm-ups is simply in the process of just doing, because your body's going to be moving, you're getting your mind to settle. If your warm-ups work, at the end of your warm-ups, your chi is more or less in your lower dantian. I'm not saying it's perfect, because the walking is going to make it stronger, but you want to start with your chi in your lower dantian, and you want to have your mind, from whatever movements you're doing, even just going up and down and stretching this way and that, stretching that way. In the beginning, most people's minds can't settle. There's a period of time it takes to settle. And that's no different when most people do meditation, when, before they're very, very experienced. What is the difference in one sense between experienced and inexperienced meditator? Well, it can take an inexperienced meditator up to an hour to have their mind settle to where they start meditating. Just to be very straight about it. What is the difference with a really experienced meditator? 3 seconds. Because their mind is used to not leaving being settled their entire time. So now there's a pretty big gap between 3 seconds and an hour. So clearly, the main point is that you have at least started the process of having your mind being settled, so that when you start walking the circle, you are beginning from the place where ideally you should begin. And then now you're going to take it somewhere. So these are the points I just want you to consider about a warm-up. If you have, if your shoulders are super tight, then clearly, for example, in the ones like where your hands go like that with a stretching, you also could just stand up and just like do this a couple of times if your shoulders were tight or your neck are tight. But I believe that the exercises you're going to be shown, and we're going now to the final one, then we'll go to the body unification stuff, they're about the bare minimum you can do just to kind of genuinely be warmed up for the purposes I described. I'm only going for the least amount you need to do to kind of get the job, because I'm very much aware this is not 100 years ago. This is not 50, 70 years ago where people could practice 3 or 4 hours every day. Do you understand? That all sounds really great, but then if you start getting down to how many people actually do it, it drops. So I'm very much aware of heavy schedules. I'm very much aware of time constraints in the modern world. And I've tried to configure the basic level of pretty much what is the least that will really get the job done. Now, if you get to the point to where you can do the least, at another time, I will be more than happy to show you how to do more. Okay, but until if you can't get the minimum done, for sure, you're not going to go beyond that. Okay, so what I want you to do now is, again, the way you could have done the spine stretch, just going forward when you did this business, there are 2 ways it can be done. The beginning way, which is absolutely the way I recommend everybody do it in the beginning, when you first start for a long time, is with your feet parallel, shoulder width apart. But then you also can do it with your feet toed in. So what do you want to do? I don't care. All right, so now, the thing that you need to bear in mind, that if you're going to do the spine stretch this way, or you're going to start turning to the side, right? That if you turn your feet in like this, the internal pressures on your body are going to jump like you're not going to believe. Do you know what it is like, you have a wrench and you tighten the thing up? Well, when you put your feet in like that, you are tightening every single part of your body at every insertion point. But since you use this stance all the time in Bagua, that's the reason why it's done this way in Bagua. If you were doing it just as a health exercise, right? There's no need to do this. This is with your toes in. You might say that that's kind of like the super high performance way of doing it. But again, some of you here are into that, so I should mention it. But just for the moment, let's put the feet forward, because I don't want people having the idea that they got to do the harder one. And this is called, remember the first rule, protect your body. Seriously, replacements are hard to come by. Really. Now, okay, so Bill gets up here and he has his hand. So first, The first thing you simply want to do is just, as before for this, to get the idea, just bring your elbows, basically, bring your hand, sorry, to the crook of your elbow, and then extend it forward 70 or 80%. When you do this, the most single important thing about when you do it is that under no circumstances, once you get your elbows out, do they come back. So do that again, Bill. Now see if you can see how that's different. And Bill, as you do it, bring your hand back, and like just as you bring your hand back, let your elbows go back a little bit. No, Once your elbows are out, that's where they stay, because that is what is maintaining the length from your spine, and that is what is actually all the connections you're going to get. Now, I'm just going to add one more thing for those people. This is more as you get more down the line. So you guys over here, if you get confused, don't think it's weird, because you're going to now hear information that's not really in evidence. Those of you in the level 1, almost all of you have done a lot of Qigong courses with me. So if you can remember back to those days, there are two issues here. The first one is that, remember, you can stretch your spine if you focus on stretching from your spine and more or less coming from your back to the front of your hands. However, if you also want to warm up your internal organs, and you really want to get the space inside your abdominal cavity so your belly becomes this very live, living thing that connects the top and the bottom of you, then the access route is through the armpits. So that's going to mean that the place where your elbows are really going to kind of lock into is in the center of your armpit. And from the center of your armpit, that's how you get to your internal organs. Whereas you also could have more of a slightly rounding like this, and you could connect your elbow to your spine, more to your spine, or you can do a mix of both. Just keep this in mind. So it's your call what you want to do, because different times, different places. Okay, so he just do this a few of these, Bill, just before. I would recommend that before you actually do the turning, for maybe the first 3 months only. You don't need to do it past that. Just do this a few times, especially before you're going to do the 5th exercise. Okay, so now we're cool. So what Bill does is he brings his elbows back like this. And now you remember that turning that we did? Yes? So he turns his body. How far can you go? Comfortably. Now, Bill bends forward. He bends forward just like he did with the spine stretch before. Sticks his arms out. And how far? Hard to say. Just do me a favor. Don't feel a big strain in your shoulders or your spine, so that you don't inadvertently, without realizing it, put too much pressure on your neck. Your neck during this whole exercise should have the sense of having a lot of air in it, a lot of space in it. If you have that, you're not going to pull something out. If your neck feels like it's bunching up and you're fighting it as your hands go out, that's how you pull a vertebrae out. I'm just telling you. It's a strong exercise. Anything that has a lot of power has the power to do good and quote-unquote to do bad. Electricity, run computers, cameras, fans, whatever. Hey, they also have electric chairs. So bear in mind, the electricity is a very neutral force. Power is a very neutral force. The next question is, pay respect to it. And what I'm saying is that this action is not only going to affect your spine, it's going to affect your neck. Now, the most important thing about doing this is that your head really stays straight. So if we take that line that's between your head and your perineum, or at least the sense of your neck is growing and your head is growing out of your spine. Look at me right now. You see this here? No. Do you see how my head is growing out of my spine? Yes or no? That's the point, because this is a spine stretch, and something that a lot of people mess up is that your neck is part of your spine. And let me give you, from this point of view, what is also part of your spine is your head. Why? Because the plates of your skull, which move, are directly connected to motions that happen inside your spine. So when you talk about this, it's just too damn long to write down, but it basically would be the spine, neck, head stretch. Because ultimately, I'm just going to do this for 1 second. Come on, Bill. So everybody here, I don't know, look at my head. I'm going to just do this once, because it's not good to open your plates of your skull as much as I'm going to do. Now, I'm going to move my hand so you know when my head is moving, it's not by accident. Watch. Could you all see the head kind of go? Well, that's not skin, folks. That means the plates of your skull, the sutures of your skull are doing this. They're going apart, in, apart, in. Now, I'm not expecting you to do that, because if you did, something would probably go snap, crackle, and pop. But I've been doing this a few weeks, so I'm kind of used to the routine. But the fact of the matter is that I did that for one reason. Your head is connected, is effectively part of your spine. Okay? That's not even to discuss the matter that your little old spinal cord goes into your brain. It's one piece. But the plates of your skull, if eventually your spine is to loosen up, the plates of your skull have to be able to have enough movement. If you want to understand what this is all about, just go to any cranial, sacral, any osteopathic book, and they'll explain it to you probably in more details than you ever wanted to know. Here we go. So does everybody get that? So the head must grow out of the neck. The head must grow out of the spine through the neck. The neck must grow out of the spine. The head grows out of the neck. One piece, not, look at me, or straight. It's very, very important, because when you make your head go back, you will cut your occiput. Guaranteed there will be no movement in the plates. And if you go forward too much, you will disconnect your neck and your head from your spine. So Goldilocks and the 3 bears. Let's make it straight. Okay, so Bill turns and start off first with, well, how far? You let your weight go onto one leg, obviously. Okay? Now he does the thing. There we go. So let's say he goes to this degree, which is about as much as I think most of you are going to get to, frankly speaking, at least for the next week or so. So now he has 2 options. The best in the beginning, hear what I said. In the beginning, the only option that you take, because bear in mind, you've now had 4 warm-ups to kind of get your system going, right? In the beginning, the only thing you want to do is just go to here. However, it may be that with over 6 months or a year or 2 years, and you really can feel your spine, your neck, and your head. Let's say you feel some vertebrae in your back, like just glunching up, or maybe you feel the plates of your head kind of overly going. Then you can very lightly maybe just do 1 or 2 very light pumps like this, just to release what is particularly stuck. But look, it's not this. It's not a strong, very, very light. Because bear in mind, you're like a rubber band at this point that's almost stretched out to the point it can snap. Little bit of movement, okay. A lot of movement, bad idea. How are we doing? So then Bill comes back, and he comes back to the center, right? And of course, he goes and does it on the other side. I recommend that at each of the angles I'm going to talk about, you do them for a minimum of 3 months before you go further. So the first 3 months, you could go up to 45. Hell, if it's only comfortable for you to go 15 or 30 degrees, well, then do that for 3 months. Just build it up very slowly, because if your body is not really together with this in the beginning, when you start really increasing the angle, you can get problems. Just bear in mind all the back problems in the world. Okay, so he comes back again.
Do you want to turn and then stretch, or turn and stretch? There
are 2 ways of doing this. There are 2 ways of doing this. The first way is how I recommend you start, and the second way is how I recommend after. Okay, you have stability points. If you want to get your body to get the stability and open something up, then it has to be stable. But then you have a second thing. How do you remain stable through dynamic movement? And that's different when your body's in motion. So the first stage is to just turn. You get your angle. Okay, do your back thing. How are we doing? Now, until you're utterly stable with this and you don't have any problems, because remember the big message. The big message is, 1, you have to make sure that your nervous system goes smooth during this. If you force your body into a stress position, your nervous system is not going to relax. It's just not going to do it. So that doesn't work. And the second thing is, you don't want to injure yourself by accident. Okay? After you've been doing this for a while, and 2 things have become painfully obvious or terribly clear. Number 1, that when you turn to this direction, your body can turn this way, your body's stable, your nervous system says, okay, I go along with this, as opposed to, okay? And that's what happens when your nerves go like that. They're basically saying, don't do it. You're going to hurt me. But then again, people don't often listen. So you get the distance, right? So you go this way. The second way in which it's done, he goes out here, Don't hold it more than a few seconds unless your body integrity is maintained and you just can feel your nerves releasing in it. But if you don't have the body integrity, don't release your nerves too much, or literally something can go farther than your body can support it. You must have body stability 1, then release your nerves 2. Now, if you've done this for a while, okay, and we assume, you know, what is that, a week, a month, 3 months, your body, do you understand what I'm saying? There's no way to know to say exactly when someone's body is going to achieve stability and their nerves are going to start to release. That's a human variation, makes that very difficult to call. But what happens next? When you have that, then you know what you do? And this is important because now we're into dynamic movement. Now, he straightens his arms and turns his waist and bends at the same time. And this is closer to how the pressures, how they're going to happen to your body when you do Bhagwan. Yes? But first you prepare the ground, then you put the seeds in. You just don't throw the seeds, otherwise they don't grow. Okay? So then he comes back up and he's coming back as he goes this way. Now, just to make this point, I really don't think anybody in here for a while should be going past, Bill goes to 90. No, let's always show him 1, 2. So he gets over here, right? Now bear in mind, you can go further. But yes, you can. Trust me, you can. Okay? But now he's got 90. Okay, so go for it. Now we have a second issue. Here he's not going down that far. Come back again. And it might be that you're only going to go this far. Can you all see this? You're 70%. I mean, it's human variation where you are at a given day. But where could this go? Over time. Okay, keep going, Bill, all the way down. Now you'll notice if you stick your hand out this way, you are really giving this spine and your head a pretty massive stretch. Yes? How are we doing? But is this going to take you a year to do? More, less, 2, 3, I don't know. It's case by case. Okay, the older you are, it's probably going to take you longer because the inside of your body's stiffer, but hell, I've seen young people it took them 3 years to finally get to that point. So there's no way to know. Now, so what happens the second thing? Well, okay, so now he does it dynamically. He's stretching out, right? And for all of you, for example, you know the Shirdatyengan? This effectively will do the same thing as this jazz will do. It won't do it for the power. It will do it for the back and the legs. There's no maybes about it. It'll do the same thing. These ones, I didn't see people doing them in Taiwan. They did these in Beijing all the time. Because the Beijing and Tianjin schools of Bagua, just because of the historical way and who went where and how, they weren't always exactly the same. Okay, has everyone got the idea? Yes or no? Now, here's where I want to bring the point and why from here. This is where we're going to start going next today. Bill, just put your foot forward into the single palm change.
Palm posture.
Right, palm posture. Sorry, palm posture. Yeah. Now, if you notice, you've done all this, your body is up, so that now when you walk a circle, and we're going to get to this. This is the next thing we're going to be doing, right? And you get to this, well, we now have an issue. Well, when you walk, you start facing forward, and then you start facing sideward. Now, can you all see that as he goes every inch further, it isn't just his waist that has to do it. All this stuff of his arms is also pulling on his waist, pulling on his spine. Can you all get that? That's the reason for the last warm-up. Because the last warm-up prepares your body for this, or what you do when you do static arm postures. Are you all following me? So the last one is kind of important. When you're doing it at home, just keep in mind that especially in any cycle, when you want to start turning your waist more, you absolutely got to get that last warm-up in. There's no two ways about it. You have to. And keep going, 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 and keep going. And keep going. That's about it. Okay, that's fine. That's cool. And if you want to look in your little book, you can see me facing entirely backwards. Okay? So, but all I'm trying to say are these varying degrees. But why did I just spend as much time on this warm-up exercise? Because the same exact conditions exist. You have to, at every turn that you're going to make, it has to be that everything in your body stabilizes in it and your nerves go from to a clean flow. unless you have a clean flow, especially if you want to have anything to do with Bhagwad's meditation, or one day you really want to be able to do Bhagwad for fighting, you have to be able to have a clean flow in your nervous system, or every time you want to change from one thing to another, your nervous system is going to freeze. So you do this, and that's fine. For example, another thing that Jack Powell used to do, just using him, he was a great guy, is this, instead of doing that exercise, he sometimes also would just stop in the middle and just, no, stay where you are. And when his waist, wherever it was, when he was clearly having a problem, okay, Bill, keep your posture and just go down to the floor and have your hand touch the floor. Now, it's a hell of a lot harder to do it this way than it is doing it this way. That much, yeah, it is. It is harder. Look, because the one thing you don't get, and a lot of people don't get, is that if you don't connect your body to your arms, then your arms don't cause pressure on your spine. They don't cause, not a pressure, they don't pull on your spine. They don't pull on your hips. They don't pull on your knee. They don't pull on your foot. But when your body connects into one unit, this pulls on every bloody part of you. And that's why it's so much, it's whole body exercise. You'll follow me. That's what it does. So, I'm only making a point that when we get back to this, we're going to do this exercise first for a few minutes, and then we're going to start looking at how this posture is held, right? And we're going to go into a little bit about how you start turning. And the turning isn't going to make a difference if you're in this posture, you're in this one, you're in this one, you're in this one, you're in any one. The same principles are involved. You just need to understand them clearly. We're going to start here. Now just watch me. The first one is that you put your feet more or less on so that the center of your feet goes up your left and your right channels. And now just watch me. Because this is going to lead in, and we have to have a real discussion about the palm with this. Because it's going to start coming. Now look what I'm doing. This right now, I'm not activating my body. Now what are you seeing? Tell me about my hands. What are you noticing? They're twisting, aren't they? They're not just turning over. They should twist. The rule in Bhagwad for those, it's first turn, then twist, then spiral. And that's how it goes. Those are the 3 stages of development. Your hand should end up in the middle of your body. Now, does this strike you as anything you've seen before? That's where your hand is going to end up. So the purpose of this exercise is to get your energy of your legs and your waist into your hand as a warm-up. That's all it's about. Everything else is somewhat, doesn't mean anything. How are we doing? Yes or no? Now, just watch one hand. It goes to the center. It's turning. Can you all see it turning? And basically, you can either have it come back to your midriff or come back to your hip. Which one you do actually has more to do with the way your body is. Long torso, short arms, long arm, short torso. Doesn't much matter. It's here. Now, if I were to show this so you'll kind of get the sense of it, come here, Jimmy. I'm only going to show this from a martial way because you're going to get what the hand movement is. You don't need this for meditation. But look, the object, look at my hand. Can you see how my hand is turning? Here, let's turn you 45 degrees this way. Okay. Can you all see how my hand is turning, yes or no? The object is to turn and twist as you go forward. Twist as you go forward. No, the center line of your body. Okay. Let me help some of you who are doing this. Now we go back to just, I'm being cheeky. You all know what the Italian salute is, right? That's what they call saluting in Italy, right? In New York, you'll see it all the time. Everyone does it, everywhere, every place. Well, let's look at this right now. Your finger, give or take, at least your index finger is right on your center line. Ideally, the center of your palm is on your center line, right on the center line of your body. When your hand comes back, look, when you come forward, notice my elbow's bent, yes or no? It's down. And this is getting you used to everything in Bhagwad where your elbow tip needs to be down. One hand twists in, they're twisting at equal speed, look, just lock. They're kind of at equal speed, and they twist equally going back. Okay? Now this is initially done 2 ways. The first way it's done, this is the vertical one. The way it's initially done is just to have your hands move. Okay? And then if you can, try and get your legs to twist. Watch this. See how my legs are twisting in to the middle? Yes or no? And they twist out to get you to go out. They twist into the middle. They twist out to get you out. And that's corresponding with the way your hand is twisting. So your hands and legs twist together. Now, I didn't show this bit in the book because I think it would make people go crazy, frankly speaking. But can you all see this? It is about, look at my legs. Yeah, just take one leg because I think two is going to be hard to see. Watch. See my leg? That's in. That's out. Can you all get it? Yes or no? Twisting in, twisting out. So your legs twist in as your hands come to the center. They twist out as your hands go to out. They twist in, they go out. Now we have the second phase to this. Okay, still the same exercise. And that is, if you have the ability, you would at least take your midriff here, this midriff area between your hip and your ribs, and you're doing this. You're closing it down, you're straightening it up. You're shrinking it down, you're straightening it up. And what this does is this gets the flow between your hands and your legs at least moving. So watch me. You see the closing? See the opening, yes or no? Closing, opening. Now we have the third way in which it's done. Okay, now, you will notice that this stick is on my center line where I'm starting, yes or no? Yes or no? Mm-hmm. Now what's going to happen is that I'm going to turn my waist. But as I turn my waist, my hand is still going to go to the stick. So now you're having the sense of how your waist turns, but your hand still goes straight. How are we doing? Is everyone getting this? And what do you think the next step is? Same thing. Okay? How are we doing? Now this one I would recommend you just do in 3 stages. Hold it up. The first one I recommend you do not twist your legs. I recommend that you just get used to having your waist turning, driving your hand forward. Just that. The second one I recommend is you have your legs twisting, making yourself go out. Your legs twisting, making yourself go out. And the third one, close, open with your midriff. Let your midriff shrink, let your midriff open. The first one you do is very simple. You put your legs apart and you shift your legs and you focus on your hand being in front of your center line. Yes? How are we doing? Can everybody get that? But the second one is that you take an objective point in front of you. That's the middle. So as your waist turns, your hand still goes to the center. How are we doing? Same thing applies. It's the same thing as before. Just move their hands. But the two things I want you to get are that, number one, a lot of you who were doing the single palm change were walking around like this. No. The elbow tip must face the floor. That's it. Now, if you can't do it, it may take time, but this exercise, when you're starting off, is to make sure that your elbow tips do face your floor. Second thing is that you really want to have the feeling of that when you do this, that your hand is really connecting to your foot. You want your foot in your hand. You want your foot to be getting your hand to move. Okay? How are we doing? Now the next one is the hard one. And I'm not going to test you on it. I just want you to know that it's there. Level 3s will be tested on it. Level 3s will be tested on this. Level 2s were not. But if you can do it, you will get brownie points. And that one is going to require a dramatically greater stretching of the body. So just look at me. Now your hand comes underneath, 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 underneath. Watch. That's about this. How are we doing? Now let me show you a point or two about that. Isaac, come here. Just come here. Just hold that there. Now watch. And take your shirt off if you would, please. And here's what the hard part about this is going to be. Face them. So go ahead. You're going to do this.
with the turn.
Yeah. Now, when his hands come in, they're going to come underneath, and that's cool. The hard part, you see this, is that he's really got to open up these shoulders nest, or there is no way his hand is going to be able to come underneath and go out with, and go out, whoops, I'm all right, and go out without there being a problem. So this is going to require a very big opening up of the shoulders nest, and his head stays straight and doesn't lean forward. You all got it? So that's going to be hard. The one from underneath is very, very hard. For all of you who are into martial arts and whatnot, this is where when someone grabs your hand or grabs something, you can kind of come underneath. Most people don't have, whatever, grab both. Most people don't have much strength here. They have strength here. But if you want to have strength on the bottom, then this is a great warm-up exercise. This is also for later when you're walking the circle so that your hands can eventually come underneath your elbow tip. It's for both those reasons. How are we doing? There are 200 palms in Bagua. There are 200 specific ways. Look at my hand, it's morphing into them right now. I'm just morphing. Each one of these is actually a separate palm position. But I want you to get that there are two basic ways, give or take, that people hold their palm vis-a-vis the center. One way, and this is the one that you want to be doing in this exercise, is your emphasis is on the center of your palm right here. So as it goes, look at my hand right now. Can you see how the center of my palm is popping forward the way it's like it's going forward? Yeah or nay? Now, as much as your palm goes forward, and this goes for the single palm change, the whole business, you also have to have something equal. The hand is going forward this way. You have to have the sense of the back of the hand coming towards your shoulder. So just try that now. Put your hands up, spread around, open your palm, center the palm, and as you do that, as you press forward, have the sense of your energy going right back into your arm. Now you want to have your hand again. You remember that thing? You remember how we did that about getting the wrist out? Can everyone remember that far back? So I want your wrist to be bent, but to be open. So close it like this, push it forward like that. Close it like this, push it forward like that. When you push the center of your palm forward, you should feel the back of your hand going back towards your face, your whatever it is, back of you. How are we doing? This is one of the tricks in the martial art game when you go boom like that on somebody, shall we say, they wish you hadn't. But there's a much larger issue about it. There's always the issue of front and back. That even though you are projecting your energy forward, here's what's going to happen when you walk the circle or hold the position. This is the natural tendency for everyone when they first do Bagua. Because your palm's going forward, it has a tendency to want to drag your body forward with it, almost like you're teetering. If you have this equal forward and back, you stay dead straight. It balances you. That's very important. For you guys over there, I talked about forward and I talked about the spine going back. It's the same issue. It's essentially the same thing that's involved. Now, there's a second way the palm is held, in many basic way the palm is held, and that is the hand is curved this way, and it's more the fact that this is in back, and what's really forward is this rim. And the reason for this rim is that that's a way of hitting somebody. Oh, I feel bad doing this to you all the time, Isaac. Somebody else. Just give me a different body. I mean, it's ridiculous here. Watch. Get two ways. And I'm not, this is the same thing when you do the monastic thing, because it is a different way that it focuses your attention on your index finger. This will focus the tension of on your index finger one way. This will create a slightly different type of an effect. So if we look, take your shirt off just because it'll make it easy. Okay, now watch. The standard thing where if I'm doing this, I'll explain in martial arts because it just makes it easy to see what you're talking about. This is what they call a cotton palm. It goes like this, okay? This was, for example, doing this on the head. Basically, you can liquefy the brain. And that's what the guy who used to kill the horses with his palm, that's what he used to do. That's one. You can get that, right? It's called cotton because the center of your hand is soft. It's like cotton. Okay? But then you have the second way it's held, and that's this. And that's called break. That's called the club. Okay? Seriously, it's like having a pipe. It's done a lot of ways. This is a very, very common one. And the third way in which it's done is that some people do it just on the edge, and they curl the hand like this. Here. Anybody here got a good punch? Got a good punch, yes? Come on, just hit me right there. Do it again. Not doing much good, is it?
No, not really.
So there's ones where they do it on the edge. Oh, yeah, this isn't flattened to a brick wall. I mean, someone's head, doesn't matter. That's how you, anyway. This is one. This is the reason why for some of you, whenever I teach any sort of a martial art class, especially the women, I say never use the edge of your hand, close your hand, so you don't break it. Now, if you get this together, there's no issue of breaking your hand. I don't care if you go straight into steel. There's no issue. But that is not the same as this area here. You all see what I'm talking about? That is not the same as this. This is a larger area because you're talking about hitting with here down to here. And when people use this one a lot, the thing that you'll notice for all of it is that here, this isn't just me. This is people who use this kind of palm. They all have a distinguishing characteristic. In astrology, this is called the mound of Venus. Don't ask me why. They give different parts of your hands different names. But I want you all just to take a look and notice how big that muscle is on me. Take a look. Take a look. I'm serious. Take a look at how big that muscle is. That wasn't born with that. That's strictly from training. That's not the mound of Venus. It's not the, you know, Venus loves me, blah, blah. No, it comes from training. Okay? But when people do this, they also have a tendency to, here, who's got a pretty strong head? Take your glasses off, Jimmy. I don't want.
Oh.
Yeah, make it like you're in a solid headbutt position.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to hurt you, but get down and bend down. Look at this muscle. This muscle. It's because they can hit like that. I didn't hit with the bone. I hit with the muscle. That's the muscle. So boom, that's another one. It's okay. I'm doing it light. If I wasn't, blood would be flowing. Okay? No, but you understand. So that's this one. Law, for example, likes that kind of hand. He likes that hand. He likes that hand. My other teacher students, Leo, used to love this one. That was his thing, boom. Because in the Cultural Revolution, he just found it terribly useful. And personally, I'm actually, at the end of the day, more of a favor of this one. So I go straight for the brain. I don't go for the head. No, there's some people got heads that are, you know, like, boom. And people who like build it so like they can like break through anything. No, but this, the cotton palm, no problem. Hit their head as hard as you want. Hit them with a steel pipe. It's not going to do any good. Doesn't have any effect. Anyway, but long story short, I want to get to this point now, which has got nothing to do with martial arts. I just want to show you there are 3 ways your hand can be held. The one I'm advocating you all do is the one that emphasizes this. And the reason I'm emphasizing this is not because of its martial abilities, because I just showed you the type of palms you would do for the other one. It is because if you can get this finger and you can really get this soft, you get the emanation from here that goes to your 5 fingers, and that is particularly good for your internal organs. Can you all hear me? Because this one is almost the standard one everybody starts out with, and then they start going into the palm shapes they happen to like. But this thing in particular, in this spreading, all 5 fingers. Now look, this finger's back. You see how this one's back? These 2 are like they're going to squeeze your head like a pincer, and the other 2 spread. But the object is that your other 2 fingers can independently be able to move. And that's going to require a certain amount of tendon stretching. And they spread like this. They spread. This particular palm is the most useful one for having the palm position itself affect your internal organs, positively affect your internal organs. Yes? Has everyone got that? For example, if you were to do that, that specifically is for the liver. There's all kinds of positions to do things. But this one gets all 5 of your organs. So the hand pushes out, the finger goes back. These 2 have to be alive, not dead. You're not making your hand fold in this way, which is a different type of palm. Now, I want you want your fingers to be spread. Once the tendons in your hand fully open up and the tiny blood vessels in your hand fully open up, classically was when they start teaching you the other 200 palms. This was the original one that was used in the monastic tradition specifically to open up the hand so that the hand could connect to the rest of the body. Now, one of the games you play, remember I talked about this and I had you doing this and about how you would connect to your 3 dandians? Well, you can also use these things to connect to your 3 dandians. Eventually, when you're walking a circle, it's a big thing in the monastic tradition, they would have things that you would do specifically with each of your fingers to benefit those particular internal organs and meridian lines. If you want to know what it is, go to the acupuncture book. They'll show you this finger is that line, that finger is that line. I mean, it's pretty standard stuff. You can probably get it on the internet. But there are all sorts of practices like that, but all of those practices fall short if your hand doesn't open up. Can you follow me? Just the sheer fact you're holding your hand like this doesn't do it. The hand has to open up first. Then you can apply every way in which you're going to move it to do something. So what you're looking for is that the inside of your hand is going to literally, look at my hand right now. Now watch, look at my finger and look at my hand. And at the very end, all your fingers, they're almost straight. Look at my hand, they're almost straight. But look at the very end of the fingertips. They're slightly bent. There's this very slight curve. Remember I talked about at one point early in the class that the body has 5 bows? Your arms, your legs, your feet, the 5 bows also eventually have to be in each of your fingers and the palm itself. And that's a whole way in which you can spring and you can open and close everything inside your body. Okay, that's what it's about. How are we doing? Yes, no? Now, the thing about it is that your hand's up, and initially you start. Some of you are only here, but you see your hand, ideally, your middle index finger, ideally should be at least vertically up, and then slowly but surely, look at my wrist. As your wrist opens up, your hands can go back towards your nose. But your wrist joint has to open up. How far your wrist can go back, I do not have naturally loose joints. And I also have fairly short fingers, but I have friends of mine, I know people that can take their finger and put it right back here. But that's what I call the loose ligament bunch. And they also have a second thing in common. They have relatively long, thin bones, and you just can see how much space they have in their wrist joint. And that's strictly anatomical. Some people have joints that are more wide but more narrow, and some people have ones that are more long but more space in the middle. That's it. There's no... Don't try and make yourself something you're not, because you got to be born with it, because you're sure. But you can get. But even for someone like me who's got a pretty tight body, that's, if you'll notice, that's still pretty far back. Yes? So that's over time. But the issue is that the hand has to have the feeling that it's basically, this is what the object of this whole thing is. This is essentially what your hand is doing. It's opening up just like this ball. Jamie, or anybody, come here, give me Craig, just because you're closer. Hold this thing, right? And just kind of match my hand. Hold it up to everybody. Just match my hand. That's basically what's occurring. And as you do that, you use the hand to open up each of the joints in turn, the elbow, the shoulder, your chest, your back, your this, your that, so that the hand, and then eventually that's what happens in the top of your body, and then you get your hand, use your hand to really open up your feet. And then when your hands and your feet move together, just look at my foot right now. Well, just look. Are you close enough to see my foot? Stand up if you're not on the side, because I sure as hell can't levitate you. Look at my foot, look at my hand. See if you notice anything. See if you notice this, they link. Well, when you get this and this to link, then you can start linking everything in the middle. There's whole procedures to do that, but I want you to understand this was basic to the monastic procedures. Because they were looking about not making a body just healthy, but very strong. So you only need to be healthy if you have no pressure on your body. If you're healthy and all you do is you don't really lift anything, you don't really walk around all that much, you don't do anything that's terribly challenging, healthy's enough. Can you follow me? As long as you have enough energy, you don't get tired, you can sleep, blah, blah, blah. But if you need to engage in things in life, such as doing a 10,000 walkabout, you better be strong. You have to be strong, or you will simply fall apart in the middle. So the thing of Bhagwa was to make a body strong. Its original intention, yes, it can make a body, it will keep a body healthy, but more than making a body healthy, it was about making it very strong inside. Just so that, you know, you just could do things with your body without your body retiring out. It's that simple. I'm not talking about you could lift buildings or, you know, rip car doors off or, you know, I don't know, run down the block at, you know, some insane speed. I'm simply talking about the fact that you can go through a lot of pressure and just kind of, so what? Where if you're weak, you go through a lot of pressure. You know what you do? First you whimper, then you cry, then you scream, then you collapse. And that's exactly what happens. That is the procedure. As in a body, old age, sickness, and death as the body wears out. It's the same thing. You're just experiencing it in smaller forms at different, and you can start experiencing when you're 15 years old. Have any of you ever seen a kid who was born really sick and really weak and they try to do anything? They're miserable little tykes. Every parent only wants one thing for their child when that they should at least be reasonably strong. Because if they're not, all you are doing is taking care of them all the time. And there's never been a parent throughout the history of the world that has not wanted that. Because, I mean, you know, it's kind of like, that's the scene. I mean, that's what you got, you know. And anybody thinks it's great to have a sickly kid, all I got to say is go visit someone who's got one and stay around for a week. You will change your mind. But equally, if your body is weak, now it becomes a question of what limits get put on you through life. Well, I only can do this much because, I mean, if I do any more, I'm going to fall apart. So, as I said, the whole thing of Bhagavad was to make people healthy, then strong. But the emphasis was always on the strength. Because they figured, you know, whereas, for example, in Tai Chi, the most giant emphasis for most people is on making people healthy, not strong. Okay? Classic Tai Chi as a martial art was about making people strong. The only trouble is that, well, anyway, they died younger than Bhagavad people did. That's all that can be said. Consistently. The top guys always died younger. So I think personally, it seems to be Bhagavad does a better job as far as all that goes. And I've written about it in my books, my opinions on this, so you just can read them and you're fine. Okay, so if you all got this thing about the hand, how are we doing? So now here's the trick here. Look. So you got that whole business about, you know, shrink and grow. So just one hand at a time so you don't get confused. So what do you think the hand is doing? Growing, 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 growing. What do you think it's doing? Shrinking, 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 grow, grow, grow. Now it doesn't have to be giant, just this much. Because one of the things you're doing is you want to get all 5 fingers, and if you get this thing right, you feel like your tendons are being stretched. And it actually can be, you know, it's a bit of work. Stretching tendons is a bit of work. Okay, how are we doing?